If you happen to go to the Supreme Court of the United States for a visit, it's a great building, it's an interesting place, and if you go inside, on the walls up near the ceiling are a series of friezes or sculptures that surround the building. At the very beginning of the history of the law, you see the image of Hammurabi, a great king from about 4,000 years ago. Hammurabi was the Sumerian king in Babylon at about 4,000 years ago, 1900 to 2000 BC, who is pictured here on the throne delivering the law to his people. This was one of the most developed urban communities in that part of the world at that time. There are hundreds of laws inscribed on this. For at least those who could read in that society were able to see them. The law was not secret, it was open, it was public. That's a policy that we follow to this day. Hammurabi's law proclaims if a builder builds a house and doesn't build it properly and it falls in and it kills the owner of the house, then the builder shall be put to death. Now, this is obviously a very severe sanction. This, in essence, is the initial presentation of what we call from the Bible an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. What the Romans called lex talionis, the law of retribution. And that was what was followed in that era. If the building collapses and ruins goods or property in the building, then the builder has to make compensation for what he has ruined. And since he didn't construct the building properly, he has to re-erect it, rebuild it at his own expense. There are two interesting things about this. First, this is civil damages. You have to pay compensation for what you did. And Hammurabi's law doesn't say you have to have a trial and figure out if the builder did something negligent. Instead, he says the mere fact that the building collapsed is evidence that it wasn't built properly. You are responsible for fixing the damages that the collapse caused. There's another interesting provision in this code. If instead of the owner of the new building dying, it's his son who dies, then it is the son of the builder, not the builder himself, who shall be put to death. A classic illustration of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Let me talk for a minute about the Bible's version of Hammurabi's laws about construction defect and poor construction and collapsing buildings. Throughout the Middle East, during the era of the Bible, there was a classic form of residence utilized by the Israelites. It was called the four-room Israelite house. In Deuteronomy, the Bible provides that if you build a new house, you shall make a parapet for your roof, that thou not bring blood upon your house if any man falls from it. What this refers to is the wall that you can see around the house. It was hot in that area of the world. Rooftops tended to cool off at night. It was a warm place to sleep at times. It was a surface that was utilized. And obviously, if you had a flat roof with no wall around it, that could be dangerous. People could fall. So the Bible says you have to build this wall around it. Maybe this is the first evidence of a building code that we know of. This is another form of strict liability or strict responsibility. If the wall isn't there and somebody gets hurt, it's on you. Our modern civil justice law, our tort law, in fact has its foundation in the Bible and reflects some evolution of belief, some increase of knowledge, maybe some increased sophistication. But when anybody tells you that there's something wrong with our civil justice system, I think it's reasonable to say, hey, you know, it's just from the Bible. It's the way civilization has been in the Western world for 3,000 years. There's nothing wrong with it. People ought to be held responsible for what they do and pay for the damage they cause. Thank you.